Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again tonight with another episode of After the Buzzer, the show where I recap the NBA games from the night. There was a 12-game slate tonight, so I'm not going to get to every game. I'm going to try and highlight the games that I watched the most of because I also do not have 30 pairs of eyes, so I didn't see every game as much as I would like to talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and break down the ones I did see, and there were a lot of great games in the NBA today. There were some blowouts, but overall, pretty great night of basketball on the first game that many teams played. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of these videos coming out almost every single night. You don't want to miss that. Make sure to hit that bell. Starting off with Pelicans versus Nets, one of my most anticipated games of the slate, because I feel like both of these teams have potentially really high-powered offenses, while their defense leave a lot to be questioned, and I expected kind of a shootout, one that was really back and forth and close until the end, but the Pelicans instead made an absolute statement away at Barclays Center, winning by like 20 points. They were blowing the Nets out for most of this game. The Nets really couldn't do anything against the tandem of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. Ingram had 28, 7, and 5, while Zion had 25, 9, and 3. They dominated Brooklyn on the boards too, grabbing 40 to the Nets 24. They were destroying them on points in the paint as well. There was nothing the Nets could do. They just don't have the personnel to stop the Pelicans. And I don't really think this is just a Nets thing, although I do think it's going to be a problem, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I think this was more so a statement from New Orleans. I've been saying this on this channel if you've been here for a while. If you haven't, make sure to subscribe. But I've been saying it for a while that the Pelicans, to me, feel like they're set up to make a Grizzlies-type jump in the West. Not only did they push the Phoenix Suns to 6 games in the playoffs last year, but they're getting back Zion, and I feel like people keep forgetting how good Zion is. Him and Brandon Ingram both have the potential to be all NBA players this year. I think Zion could be a dark horse MVP candidate if he gets his numbers back up, similar to what he had them in his sophomore season. He's in the best shape of his career, and he immediately came out and dominated regardless of who was trying to guard him. There's one clip where Ben Simmons was trying to guard him on the perimeter, and Zion just blew right past him. Because if you play off of Zion, he can just blow right by you by getting a full head of steam. You really can't play him any way that is going to stop him from getting to the rim. He gets there at will, and that's going to be the big problem for teams playing against the Pelicans. They're going to destroy teams inside and on the glass. Having Zion and Valanciunas down low, it's just a recipe for your team getting out-rebounded basically every single night. They got so many offensive rebounds in this game, second chance points. Even if Brooklyn got it stopped, the Pelicans could get 2, 3 shots on any given possession because they just could not get the board and secure the offensive possession. It was ridiculous how much they were destroying them inside, which is going to be a theme for the Pelicans. They're going to continue to do this, but they also have shooters, guys like CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, who was really good tonight. Larry Nance Jr. was out there grabbing a ton of boards too. Shout out to him as well. Everyone on this Pelicans team fits this scheme perfectly. I love the team that they've built around Zion and Ingram as their stars. The Pelicans are going to be a problem. To me, this was a massive statement, more so than it was the Nets kind of showing that they've got some weaknesses, which they do. This was the Pelicans showing up and saying, hey, we're here, we've arrived, and I'm really excited to see what they keep doing. I'm going to be watching as many Pelicans games as possible because I feel like they could really shock a lot of people out there in the West, especially if Zion and Ingram keep playing like this, which I think they will. Then on the other side in this game, the Brooklyn Nets, like I said, they were getting destroyed defensively a lot of the time, which is a big concern. Ben Simmons is kind of supposed to tie things together, but he really didn't do that tonight. He really struggled in this game, not just defensively, but most importantly, offensively, because I think Ben Simmons in the long haul, he's going to be perfectly fine on defense. I think this one, a game where he fouled out, I don't think this is going to happen on most nights for Ben Simmons, but offensively, they looked terrible. Kyrie couldn't buy a bucket. Kevin Durant didn't really heat up till later in the game, and Ben Simmons was honestly kind of just causing problems. Their starting lineup was Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Royce O'Neal, and Nick Claxton, and immediately as soon as I saw that lineup, I was a bit concerned. I would have liked them to have kind of more shooting involved there, and they didn't have Seth Curry in this game, so he's a guy I would like to see be involved in that starting lineup when he does come back. But having Nick Claxton and Ben Simmons on the court at the same time is concerning because they were just getting sagged off of. The Pelicans were kind of just leaving them open, double teaming Durant as he went to the basket whenever he tried to get something going. Ben Simmons was kind of just standing around, and this is partially his fault because he hasn't really adapted his game, but also part on Steve Nash, who just kind of has this offense of, hey, Kyrie, you take the ball, go do something. Hey, KD, you take the ball, you go do something. It's kind of just this back and forth type thing, which I saw a lot of when Russ and KD were playing in Oklahoma City. So I know how frustrating that can be. And seeing this highly talented team do that, it's kind of annoying to watch, especially when you watch a team like the Pelicans who are sharing the ball. They're doing a great job of moving it around, getting a bunch of guys involved, and that's why they won the game, that offensive movement, as well as, of course, destroying them on the glass. Right now, in this game, the Pelicans were just a far better team. Brooklyn, on paper, could beat out the Pelicans in terms of overall talent, but the Pelicans way outwork them in this game. The Nets have a lot of things to figure out, and I don't think it's going to come around very soon, which was kind of my concern heading into the season. Overall, this could just be a one-off fluke, but things don't look great for the Nets. I'm not saying this is the end of the world, that they're going to miss the playoffs and stuff, but it's very clear that they've got some holes. In another early game, the Detroit Pistons faced off against the Orlando Magic, where Paolo Banchero was absolutely balling. He looked like the first overall pick, had the first 25-5-5 debut for a rookie since LeBron James back in 2003. He looked incredible, poised from the second he came in the game. There was a lot of debate about who should have been the #1 overall pick, and Paolo showing that he was a great choice for Orlando, who was rumored for a while to be looking at Jabari Smith, instead going with Paolo in a huge draft day surprise. And overall, it looks like that might have been the right pick for them. He's poised. It really didn't feel like he was a rookie out there. You know, a lot of times when you see rookies playing, you can kind of tell, oh, that guy is not really experienced. You know, it's going to take him some time to get adjusted to the league. Paolo doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's going to take him no time at all. I said from the beginning that he feels like the #1 scorer that Orlando is missing. And from the game he had today, I 100% believe he's going to continue to be that for them for like the next 7-8 years. On the Pistons side, 2 rookies for them in Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren both looked really good as well. Ivey and Cade Cunningham is such a fun backcourt. I love Ivey running in transition. Just the way that they played, they ran fast, and I love the way that Jalen Duren was used. He's one of the youngest players in the league. In fact, I think he might be the youngest, and he went out there and immediately made an impact in his first game. I was saying for a while before the draft that he was one of my favorite prospects. I saw him as kind of like a Bam Adebayo light type player, and he looked the part of that, being a great defender, getting some buckets down low too, being a lob threat. He was doing everything that this backcourt needs, and that trio of Cade, Ivey, and Duren is going to be a handful for opposing teams out east for like 10, 12 years. Heading over to Minnesota, we saw the Thunder face off against the Minnesota Timberwolves in what was a really fun game. Of course, being a Thunder fan, I'm going to start off with them. Shea was incredible. He had 32, 6, and 5 on 52% shooting in his first game in, I believe, 7 months, if I did the math correctly, because last time he played was March 21st, last regular season. He didn't play in the preseason. He started off pretty slow, I think 1 for 5 or even 2 for 7 in his first 7 shots, and then he completely turned it around. He was hitting mid-range buckets, he was hitting threes, he was attacking the basket as he continues to be one of the best drivers in the entire game of basketball. Giddey also looked really, really solid, playing some good defense, throwing dimes, grabbing boards, scoring. You know, he had a mid-range jumper, he had a couple threes, he had a floater, continuing to unveil some of that new offensive arsenal that he's developed over the offseason. The handle is looking tighter. Super excited for them as a backcourt. Other guys like Poku played really well for most of the game. And then right up at the end, he really struggled. He got really shot happy, and I think he ended up shooting like 3 for 10 at the end of things, despite, you know, maybe like 5 or 6 of those shots coming in the last couple minutes. Just got a bit too aggressive, but it's fine. He played really well for the rest of the game. Trey Mann looked good out there too. Jalen Williams looked good before he got hit in the eye and he exited the game. Hopefully he's able to come back and be healthy. Overall, though, really pleased with how the Thunder played. We played the Timberwolves really close, right down to the wire. We were tied for a lot of this game. Ultimately, came out with the L, which, if we're trying to get Victor Wembanyama, is probably the result that you want. But overall, I was super proud of the way the team played. This defense is going to be for real. And that's what I said in my video talking about how the Thunder are going to be better than people think. We're not going to be a pushover on any given night. I'm not saying we're going to be like a play-in team, but I do think the Thunder are going to be much more difficult to beat than people give them credit for. I saw a lot of people saying that they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league this season, one of the worst teams ever maybe. That's just not true. This Thunder team's a lot better than the national media will have you thinking, and if you watch this game, you would understand that. On the Timberwolves side, we had the debut of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert in the regular season as a front court, and they look pretty good. Rudy himself had a really good game. He shot 15 times in this one, which was cool to see for the Timberwolves, because I believe that's more than he shot at any point last season for Utah, which is kind of ridiculous. They got him very involved, and part of that might have been because our starting lineup included Poku and Kenrich Williams. Poku's 7 feet tall, but he weighs like 30 more pounds than me, who is 6 feet tall, and Kenrich Williams is like 6'6", 6'7". So we didn't exactly have a tall team out there, so that might have been part of why he got so aggressive. But regardless, I like to see him getting involved. He tried to take advantage of those mismatches. He was catching lobs, he was grabbing offensive boards, battling down low. That's what you want to see out of Rudy. That's why I think this Timberwolves duo can work. Cat was stretching the floor, being aggressive too at times. It's going to take some time for them to gel completely, but I was pretty impressed with what I saw from the get-go. There was one point in the game in the third quarter where they didn't score a single point in the paint as a team. That can't happen. And that was when OKC really started to come back. I think we won like a 27-5 run or something like that, or 25-7, something like that. It was a ridiculous run to get us back in the game after being down by like 18 points. And it was because they started settling for a lot of shots. They turned the ball over a lot. And part of that is due to OKC's defense, but other part of that is because they just stopped being as aggressive as they were down low. They weren't battling as much for those rebounds. Ultimately, they've got to continue to be aggressive. Use that height that you have. That is your advantage. If you don't use that, then what is the point of having two 7-footers out there? Also shout to Jade McDaniels. He looked really good. If he continues playing like this, the Timberwolves only get scarier. All around, pretty good showing from them. Like I said in my season predictions video, I think they're going to be really good, and this game showed me a lot of the same things I was expecting to see. The Pacers played the Wizards and caught an L, but I want to talk for a second about Tyree Halliburton, who I can't believe that Indiana got Tyree Halliburton to start their rebuild. The fact that they got a talent like him, not through the draft, but just through a trade for Domantas Sabonis, really blows my mind. He is such a high-level talent as a playmaker, as a scorer. He had 26, 4, and 7 in tonight's game. He was saying before the season he wants to be a 2010 guy. I'm believing he can be. I think he can be right around those marks. They didn't have Miles Turner in this one, who would have helped him get a couple more dimes than he did, because I believe he stepped on a ball boy's foot or something like that and sprained his ankles. Hopefully Miles Turner is able to come back soon. Also, Benedict Mathurin had 19 points. They've got a great young core over there in Indiana. Super pumped to see what they do this season. And finally, we had a rematch of the Western Conference semifinals in the Suns versus the Mavericks, and for a good portion of this game, it just looked like a rerun of Game 7. The Mavericks were up like 22 on the Suns. In this one, they were dominating them, they were laughing, hanging around, and then the Suns kind of started to creep back a bit, and they ended up almost tying it, and then Christian Wood came in, dropped 16 points straight off the bench, and then Jason Kidd benched him for some odd reason. I don't know why. He wasn't even in for that long. Jason Kidd benched him. The Suns came all the way back, and then he's like, oh shoot, I should put him back in. But by that point, it was kind of too late. The Suns had already kind of gathered that momentum, and really at that point, it was almost a formality. But then Luka Doncic hits an and one to tie the game, ending up with a Damian Lee game winner, a name that I never thought I would say would hit a game winner for the Phoenix Suns when they've got Chris Paul, who wasn't even in the game at the end of things. They chose Cameron Payne over him, who, credit to Cameron Payne, Thunder legend, he was hooping out there, so I don't blame them. But they've got Chris Paul, they've got Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges. Damian Lee was the guy who hit the game winner, and it was a super tough shot as well. Luka missed a shot at the buzzer, and the Suns completed the 22-point comeback over Dallas, conquering some of those demons probably haunting them from the Western Conference semifinals still. Maybe this is a big win for them. That kind of gathers some of that momentum. We'll see, but I was impressed by what I saw from the Suns, their resolve, their ability to fight. I still think they need to get some guys as scorers off the bench. I liked what I saw from Damian Lee, but I don't think he's going to do that every night. I just don't think you can expect that from him. But maybe I'm wrong, and Damian Lee's about to win 6th Man of the Year. Who knows? But Phoenix does get the win. Also, DeAndre Ayton got really aggressive in this one, which I really wanted to see. I feel like that is a necessity for Phoenix to continue to rise in the Western Conference, so hopefully things stay that way. Then, over for Dallas. You know, you can't be happy about blowing a 22-point lead, but I also don't think they need to push the panic button or anything. The Suns are a really good team. You do have some things to figure out still, like Spencer, mainly the rotations was one of the big issues for me with Jason Kidd. Dinwiddie was on fire, and he was a big reason why the Mavericks took that massive lead. and then he sat him for a very long extended period of time when they kind of came back. Christian Wood helped them get a new lead, and then he almost immediately sat him too. It felt like he was benching guys for going off, which was very, very weird. I didn't understand it. I feel like he's kind of got to figure that out. I don't know why that was his system that he went with. I'm not a head coach or anything, but it just felt weird to me. So maybe that's a problem that they're going to have to address going forward. But overall, Mavericks, decently impressed with them. I think both of these teams are two of the best in the West, and we'll see how they finish the standings later in the year. Those are all the games I really want to go in depth on. Those are the ones I got to see the most of. I do want to give some shout outs though for the New York Knicks. Cam Reddish hitting a game tying 3 to send it to overtime before losing to the Grizzlies. John Morant went off. He was hooping out there, doing crazy behind the back moves, looking like the Showtime Grizzlies. They're going to be another must watch basically anytime they play this year. The Kings narrowly lost to the Blazers, but De'Aaron Fox had a monster performance. Shaedon Sharpe on the Blazers had a really good game. Hopefully he's able to stay in the rotation over there. The Jazz blew out the Nuggets by 20 points, which is not a sentence I thought I would say this season. The Hawks' new backcourt debuted and both looked pretty good. Still need to see more of it, but I was pretty encouraged by what I saw. You had the Raptors taking down the Cavaliers and Donovan Mitchell's debut as a Cav. The Bulls got a big win over the Heat despite not having Zach LaVine. And without LaMelo Ball, the Hornets destroyed the Spurs. It's going to be a long season for Spurs fans, but you're going to get Victor Wembanyama, so it'll be okay. And that's all I have to say on these games tonight. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Also hit that notification bell. And if there are any things that I missed in this video, go ahead and comment them down below. Or if there's anything you just want to talk with me about in the comments, I'll check them all out. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.